Ladies and gentlemen, on the line is Evan Drellich. What's up, Evan?
A very unnecessary introduction, Keith, but I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
What are you talking about, man? You are the guy right now. You're the only reporter that I didn't unfollow. I turned notifications off, but I'm still following you.
I appreciate that. I do.
Listen, man, first off, I want to know how you are. How are you doing? How are you feeling covering all of this? And I know you're a baseball fan, even though this is your profession. Like, how are you doing?
I think all of us are tired. You know, there was, I think, about 14 of us who were still here around 3 a.m. last night. And then, we got back here. Most of us, by 10, it wasn't the worst turnaround you could have had. I think I got here at 11. And then we got thrown out of the lobby at MLB's offices today because there's just too many of us. It's like a, full-service office building, right? They got lawyers in here, and people don't want us in the lobby.
You got thrown out?
Well, they put us in the same building. There's like an empty Le Pan Quotidien, like one of those breakfast places. So I'm standing right now in a totally empty basement that used to be like for a restaurant in Midtown. So it's a weird scene, but we're making do.
I've been over there, 1271 Avenue of the Americas. I'm trying to envision like why you guys couldn't be in there, where they put you. But okay, I get it. But I'm glad you're all right. I'm sure you're tired. We appreciate your work on all of this, keeping us updated on all of this. Let's start with today, right? Today, for me, I feel like out of nowhere, this international draft topic comes up. And I had never really heard about this international draft the last couple months. I feel like this came out of the blue. Obviously, you being on the inside, did you know this was coming, and when did this hit your radar?
Yeah, look, it's something the league has wanted for a long time. They tried to get it in the last round of bargaining. I know for sure it might have been in the previous ones as well. Leagues always want draft systems. They're very good for leagues. They give cost certainty. It's a cap on spending. You know what you're getting. There's no marketplace involved when you have a draft. And so I had reported before, I think others had as well, that it was something that the owners wanted in this round of bargaining too. It's right to say, though, that it didn't become quite the forefront issue that it became in the last day, until the last day. We were talking a lot more about CBT publicly, the luxury tax, and what happened was, we started to see the numbers on the other issues that we've talked a lot about move closer together. But there was still this, and remains, major issue of, okay, the owners want the international draft, the players really don't want it. But the players really want something the owners don't want, which is to get rid of the qualifying offer. When you sign a player, you got to give up a draft pick, and the players want to get rid of that system. The problem is the league is linking those two issues. That doesn't mean they're actually identical in value or kind of necessarily something you're going to trade one for one. So it's a complicated thing. But, yeah, the international draft has been there all along.
Yeah, and then, you just made a good point. Why are some things getting paired? Why are some things getting grouped in this tug of war? It's like, okay, we hear about 12 teams the players want in the postseason. We hear about a 14-team postseason that the owners want. We hear for a little while that the players are cool with it if they get this. Like, why in this negotiation is there so much of this, like, push and pull with some of these things? Why can't they all just be, like, separate issues?
Yeah, look, they both have economists who can put a dollar figure on these different things. Like, for example, people in the industry speculate with some, grounds for speculation that the qualifying offer, just the fact that it exists, that could be worth anywhere from $50 million to $100 million a year. That's a lot of money. It's also a pretty wide range of money. And so, if you're asking for one element that costs a lot of money, well, you might want another one back in return. The problem is, from a reporting standpoint and from a public fan standpoint, you don't really know what the dollar value of different elements are. And even the people who do know, the economists who they hire, who make these predictions and projections, they are still guessing, right? It's hard to be perfect with this stuff, although you can come pretty close. So, I know people sit there tonight and go, well, just ignore those two issues, right? So don't change the international draft, don't change the qualifying offer. But the question for players then becomes, well, okay, if you don't get rid of the qualifying offers, if that's not a change you get, then is the rest of the deal, the rest of the changes you're getting, so the luxury tax and the changes to the draft order, are you getting enough, right? And that's basically the question the players were posed today, and they basically gave us their answer, right? They told MLB, no, we're not going to just give up on getting rid of the qualifying offer at this point.
Okay. So, I mean, you've been putting out the numbers with, the pre-arbitration money, the CBT. I feel like we got close. I've been trying not to read too much into it, but when I see the numbers move and they move closer, that is the glimmer of hope, right? That's the glimmer of hope that, if we're bargaining, if we're negotiating, they're not too far off. Do you think if they take some of the things out, like the international draft or whatever, like that this could get done sooner rather than later? Like, how much longer do you think we're going to get these deadlines? Like, how much longer do you think they're going to be at the table? We're in another week here where now it's Wednesday. We got Thursday and Friday. None of us are expecting anything to get done this week. But do we smoke another week negotiating like this?
It's actually an interesting question, and I don't think anybody at this moment knows exactly what's going to happen from here, because there was speculation, even as the writers and reporters talk amongst themselves. Well, okay, if they bring down another week of games, are they just going to not talk for another week? Are they going to kind of regroup, or are they going to get right back at it right away? My speculation is that they probably won't wait too long, because at this point, you're right. Every day you miss is money, and turns out people like money, and they as you point out, the numbers are moving closer together. On the pre-arbitration bonus pool, at one point it was like a $105 million gap. Might have even been higher than that. Now it's $40 million that the league is offering. The players are asking for $65. That's a $25 million gap. They can probably winnow that down. The minimum salaries, those have moved much closer together. I believe it's only $10,000 difference as a starting point. The league proposing $700,000, the players proposing $710,000. Even on the CBT, the luxury tax thresholds, and there's other stuff involved with the CBT, but the thresholds are what we talk about the most typically. Those are starting to get pretty close together. So there is reason for the sides to keep talking. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a long wait for them to keep talking from this point.
So we're right there. Once again, folks, we're speaking with Evan Drellich from The Athletic, senior writer from The Athletic. He's been covering this better than anyone. He's the lead guy. He's giving you the most information. He's not really taking a side. He's keeping you all informed. If you're not following him on Twitter, you should be. And I said when he first came on, he's the only reporter that I'm still following and just not. No, I don't have the notifications on. I'm protecting my mental space. I'm not identifying as a baseball fan right now. I'm just a radio host talking about baseball. So
that's smart.
Yeah, and I know you can relate to being a radio host, and now you're a writer and you're in there. The next question I have for you, because you're physically there, what does it seem like? Does it seem like two sides that hate each other, or does it seem like they're cordial and they're doing business, or does it seem nasty? Because to me, I just get this vibe that these guys don't like each other. They don't want to meet with each other. This thing is like pulling teeth.
It's definitely pulling teeth. This is a question that's come up a lot, and I kind of wish I would have had the experience at this point of covering labor in other sports, right? The unions and the commissioner's office in other sports, to have it as a point of comparison. When I talk to people in the industry about it, what they point out is that, look, management and unions, they're supposed to be at odds. It would be weird if they didn't occasionally fight. It's the union's supposed to be advocating for what the players want, and the commissioner's office for what the owners want. And naturally, you're going to get conflicts, okay? So it's not the worst thing if they're fighting, but yeah, you can reach points where the acrimony is counterproductive. I think we've definitely seen, if you go back to 2020, when they were trying to come back from the pandemic, they were at each other's throats publicly, statements flying back and forth. It was messy, and there's just no way it was helpful. Even if it wasn't counterproductive, it definitely wasn't productive. So yeah, there's a history here. Tony Clark and Rob Manfred individually have had their moments. Bruce Meyer, the lead negotiator for the players, and Dan Halen, the lead negotiator for the owners. it gets heated in there. What we don't have at this point is a reason to think that literally these two sides cannot work together. Could you imagine sides that work together better? Yeah, you probably could. But remember, baseball hasn't had a work stoppage in 25 years. There's a lot that's built up here. There's a lot of money on the line. They've been talking about it for years, the possibility that you could end up in this lockout. It doesn't surprise me, put it that way.
Last night I said that I feel like these owners don't look at the players as partners at all. And I think the NFLPA and the NFL, they work as partners. I know for a fact in the NBA, it's a player-driven league, and the players might have too much say and too much power as far as what goes on in the business. How do you feel about how the owners look at the players in these negotiations? The owners hold all the cards, and I feel like the players are just like trying to win this war. They know they can't win every battle, but they're trying to win this war for all of the players that come after them.
Yeah, I think players in general have a lot of resentment and dislike for how GMs and the league overall has treated them over the last decade, right? Service time manipulation, keeping down really good minor league players an extra few days, an extra couple weeks so that a team can keep them for an extra year. It makes smart business sense, right? You understand why the team would do it. You could say if you were the GM, you would do it too. But from a player perspective, it feels pretty crappy. And you get a lot of other areas like this where as analytics have grown, guys feel like they've been treated more like numbers than people. And, think back to Rob Manfred mentioning the piece of metal. He doesn't have the best public touch as far as being an ambassador, public ambassador. He's had better moments in that one. But, the players do have a sense of animosity toward the team executives. And it adds into what you're seeing unfold here, where there's kind of been years of buildup of feeling like, hey, why are they treating us like this? And this just isn't quite right.
Yeah, you mentioned the piece of metal, and I put on Twitter, I said, Manfred deserves a piece of metal that reads, worst commissioner, any sport, all time. I can't believe where we are with this. He just bragged about how many deals he's done, and I just feel like every time he speaks, it's just not the right guy to be speaking on behalf of baseball, not talking to the fans, at least. And we're just in a bad place. How do you feel about the future of the game and the fans, right? Me as a fan, I've shared my personal story. I don't make it to WFAN if I'm not a Yankee fan online, creating podcasts, putting out content. I was so excited for this season because of how many times I've listened to John and Susan call Yankee games on the fan, Sweeney do post games on the fan. I'm like, I get to be a part of that. Now I don't know when that begins, and I'm hurt by it. And I know there's a lot of young people that don't understand this lockout, and I think baseball is going to be hurt by all of this. I don't know if they ever recover.
Yeah, I can give you kind of a personal answer on this. I grew up listening to WFAN. I grew up in New York. I was a huge Mets fan. I really loved baseball, and baseball is what led me to reporting, right? It was that love of the game, truly. Over time, I've come to love reporting and journalism. I do find, if you were to ask me personally, Evan, do you enjoy watching games the way you used to? And the answer, some of that's going to go by the wayside naturally when you do this professionally and you're reporting and you get behind the curtain, all that, right? But the entertainment product of baseball, I think most people at this point would agree, has changed, and I think many people would agree, not changed for the better. The disappearance of speed and some of the tactical elements that some of us who, of a certain age remember being in the game, those are gone. And so you have a sport that's already in a trying position as far as grabbing attention, grabbing the younger generation. When baseball had the strike in 94, 95, people didn't have cell phones in their pockets. Most people didn't. And certainly those who didn't have a cell phone that could stream Netflix and Hulu, at the swipe of your finger, right? You can turn away from baseball instantly now. And so it's a really different entertainment landscape. You combine the fact that the game might not be as appealing as it used to be with how easy it is for people to look elsewhere if they want to. It is playing with fire if they have a long work stoppage.
Yeah, it's already burning. They already put their hand on the stove too many times. Now they're getting second degree burns on the way to just like, I don't know, man. I'm discouraged. I'm sorry, but Rob Manfred, back to him. This guy has mishandled so many different things in his tenure, and I know he doesn't care because he's well paid, and business for the owners is good, and I'm sure they're telling him he's doing a great job. But for the fans, we're like, okay, we saw what this guy did during the lockout. We saw how he handled, the juice balls in 2019, the 7-inning doubleheaders, Manfred's man on second in extra innings, and the scandal around the Red Sox and specifically the Houston Astros, those crooked crooks and criminals down there in Houston. You are the author of a forthcoming book on the Astros. I can't wait to check that out as a Yankee fan that feels robbed in 2017 of potentially a trip to the World Series. Tell the folks listening a little bit about that book and what we can expect in that.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the lockout to end personally because I've got to get that thing finally fully edited and sent off so it can get into everybody's hands. Yeah, Ken Rosenthal and I broke the Astros sign stealing story back in 2019. I imagine it'll be the biggest story I ever had in my life. We'll see. It's kind of a hard one to top. But I had been the Astros beat writer for the Houston Chronicle, and the book I've written is explaining how did we get there? What was going on behind the scenes in Houston? What was the management culture like that could lead, an otherwise pretty smart and innovative organization to a point where you have one of the biggest scandals, certainly of this century in sports, and I think all time in baseball, it ranks pretty high up there. So there's a lot people don't fully understand about what was going on there. And look, you're seeing some of the implications of teams' behavior now playing out. The Astros, service time manipulation, tanking, that's all part of this lockout. And these are issues that still really do exist in the game today.
Evan, you're the man. I appreciate you making time. I know you're tired. I know you're working. I know you've been going at this now for weeks. We appreciate you stepping in to just give us some insight and share your perspective. It's been great, and I thank you for coming on.
Okay, thanks, Keith. Anytime.
Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Evan Drellich from The Athletic, senior writer and the lead reporter on all things lockout right now. I feel bad for the guy. I mean, obviously he's getting paid to do his job, but like he said, this is keeping him away from publishing his book with Ken Rosenthal on the Astros cheating scandal. They're going to make a movie about that. Maybe I'll be in the background somewhere as an extra, as part of the John Boy Media team. Maybe I'll get a small cameo somewhere. But yeah, he talked about them kicking them out, right? MLB is kicking the media out. They're kicking reporters out, shooing them away. Get out of here. Go somewhere else. This is all bad. There's not one good thing about this. I've tried to think and, spin this or have a different take. Like, oh, it's going to be all right. Or, I used to say when 2020 hit and that was the worst year of all of our lives, that there is a future on the other side of 2020 and this pandemic. And it might take a year or two to get to that beautiful future, right? That utopia, that's the 2020 vision, the future that we all hope for. And in that future, maybe baseball does not exist the same way it did in the past. We're walking into it. The mandates are dropped. Warmer weather is on the way. People are out doing what they want to do. And there's a ton of people in this country that would like to go to a spring training game in Arizona or Tampa, and they can't. And they might be frustrated to the point where they say, I'm not going to any of these games when the season starts. I might catch a game or two here, if I get free tickets, but I'm not going out of my way. I'll watch it when it's on TV and there's nothing better on to watch. But I can't be so committed to the game of shadows. It's sketchy, it's not good, and it's not good for the health of the sport. Keith McPherson on The Fan. Let's take another time out, and we'll get back to your calls right after this.